So really excited to kick this off. For those of you new to my channel, my name's Chris, and really happy that we're going to be doing a 5-episode series very specific to the Togens Beginner Tying Kit, which is what you see here. So this was actually part of a giveaway, now available on their website as well for purchase. A great kit to start tying 5 very effective patterns, but also five fly patterns that we feel are very, I guess, easy to learn and will give you a lot more confidence moving forward and trying new things. So in today's episode, we're going to be tying the woolly bugger pattern. Now, one thing to keep in mind, yes, there are, a dozen different ways you can tie a woolly bugger. We're going to be doing a very basic rendition of the woolly bugger pattern, using all the materials that you get from this kit. So first things first, I thought a lot about sort of how am I going to approach these videos, and I'm no Davey McPhail or Tim Flagler, but I'm going to try my best here and really just sort of keep in mind that you're new to fly tying. You don't know where to start, you don't know how to begin, but that's what this kit was actually designed for. That's why we're doing these videos. So I'm really going to sort of take that beginner approach and just sort of help you go along in tying these really awesome patterns, and hopefully turn you into a fly tying addict. To get started, this is very much like what my first shopping cart looked like. I went to the fly shop, just got a bunch of stuff. I didn't really know where to start. So to help with the woolly bugger pattern in the beginner fly tying kit, you're gonna need just a few of the materials that are provided in here. So got my notes here. So for this woolly bugger pattern, what I want you to do is reach into your box, and you're first going to pick out the streamer hooks, and these are going to look like these. These are actually a size 8. You may get a size 10, but the important note is that they are streamer hooks. So take those out, put them to the side. Next thing you're going to want are your beads, and for this we're going to be adding the 3.2 millimeter red tungsten beads. And again, woolly buggers, you can use any colors you want really, so it doesn't have to be red. It can be the gold, it can be copper, it can be orange beads if you want. We decided to go with the red because it looks more like those egg-sucking leeches, which are fantastic. So take those out, put them to the side. Next, you're going to need some thread. In this kit, you're going to get some black 70 Denier thread. And again, this is Danville. You may get UTC. I know Togens is going to try to keep it as consistent as possible, so things may not be exact, but the essentials are going to be there. So put that to the side. Next, you're going to need to take out is your Marabou. So take that package of black Marabou out, put it to the side. We're also going to need the wonderful, one of my favorite materials ever is the Flashabou. Put that to the side. And we're going to need our Chenille. That's going to look like this. Put that to the side. And lastly, you're going to need some Hackle. So that's going to come in this longer package like this with a dozen or so fibers in there. So put that to the side. There's going to be some tools, obviously. So number one, have your vise ready. Get your whip finisher tool ready. Your scissors and your bobbin spool with thread. So now that we have the stuff that we need to the side and ready to tie, I can put this rest of the box to the side, and now we're going to dive into the actual tying of the pattern. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so let's get started. First step, now that you have your materials all to the side, is grab one of your hooks. Gonna grab one of your beads. And then not necessary, but definitely recommended, is you just kind of want to mash the barb on the hook. You can do that with either a set of pliers. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just stick them in my vise here, and then I'll close down on the clamp, and that just takes out that barb. And depending on the bead or the size of the bead, sometimes it'll make it a lot easier to put on that bead. And the way you want to do it on the bead is, if you don't know, the bead has a larger hole and a smaller hole. So you want to insert the hook on the smaller side, on the smaller hole. And that'll go through just like that. Then we're going to secure our hook to the vise. If you haven't done so already, load up your new bobbin with your thread. And to get the fly started, we're going to start tying right behind the bead. And again, I'm trying to really just keep in mind that, you know, you're a beginner fly tyer. You don't really know sort of much on even just how to get started or how to get set up. So forgive me if I miss a few steps. I do have a few other videos on my channel on how to get things started, some tips and tricks, the tools you need, etc. So give those a view if you haven't already. And if I do miss something, please feel free to comment below on the comments, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. So to start your thread, I'll take out a few inches, and then I'll just start wrapping, and then keeping that sort of tag end on my left, I'll start wrapping over it. And now it's kind of, you can see it's locked into place there. And with your scissors, come in here and nip off that tag end. And now with even wraps, work your way back towards the bend of the hook. Right to where that barb was that we mashed down. First set of materials we're going to tie on is going to be the Marabou that you received in your kit. And if you open up that package, it's going to come in a big clump, sometimes separated. You only need one sort of section of that entire clump. And then even that is going to be too much. So one thing that I like to do, not necessary, I'm going to try to keep this, again, the most basic rendition, is this tip of the feather. I got two in there. This tip of the feather is very straight, so you can sort of isolate it like that and break it off, or you can just leave it. It's completely up to you. I really don't think the fish care that much. And then what I'm doing now is I'm simply grabbing, I don't know, about half of them like that. And I'm preparing the material so that that is what my tail could look like. And I'm basically just judging. I'm trying to figure out, is that look good enough? I like my tails fairly sort of thick and bushy. And so I'm going to bring a few more fibers up to the top. And now that looks much more tail-like. And now for a basic measurement, go with the length of the hook. So I'm just going to after I took my measurement, you can see my measurement are my fingers where I'm holding it. Just bring that to where you stopped your thread. And now transfer your hand, and with your left hand, grab the materials and the hook if you can, pretty firmly. And now just hold it in place. Now with your thread, you want to come over and do a wrap and kind of pull. You know, don't pull too tight, but pull snug, and that's going to hold it in place. It typically takes about 2 or 3 wraps to hold any material in place. And then there's your basic tail. To help secure it, I'll continue to hold it, and I'm going to work my way forward towards the bead, trying to keep it on top. And then when I'm happy with that, grab your scissors and make sure it's clear. Make sure you don't cut the thread. Grab that excess marabou and you can nip it off. Now I'm just going to clean up the bit, so I'm going to secure some more of those looser fibers, and then I'm going to work my way to about the 3/4 mark. Now don't worry about how it looks messy here, because we're going to actually, because we're tying on more materials, it's naturally going to start to get cleaned up, and then before we sort of finalize, we can always come in and do another cleanup then. So the next set of materials, we're going to put in some nice flash to give this tail a little bit of sparkle and sheen and get the fish's attention. Is you're going to grab your Flashabou. So what I want you to do is I want you to go in and I want you to grab 2 strands of the Flashabou. So what I do is I keep it in the material packaging. Well, I usually clean it up. I usually cut it off and nice and clean, but I'll just keep a corner open. So that allows me to come in here and I can pull out any 2 strands. And then I'll nip them off right where they're kind of secured in the packaging there. And now that just keeps everything nice and tidy. And I got my 2 strands in my other hand. So what you're going to do next is just kind of keep the tips aligned. And you're going to roughly measure. You want it about the same length or a little bit longer than the tail on the end here. And on one side of the fly, so you may need to move, so you're going to have one here, and then you're also going to have one here. We're just going to put that on the side, and again with my left hand I'm transferring the material. I'm going to hold that in place. And I'm going to do 1, 2, get 3 securing wraps. And now what you can do is grab the tag end of these things, lightly pull them over to the other side, and do 1 wrap, 2 wraps, and now I'm making sure they're kind of positioned on the side of the fly that I want. And again, I'll transfer, and then I'll work my way back towards the start of the tail. And then I'll always come in here, because you can't always see, is I'll come in here and I'll make any adjustments before I really lock things in. So that's where it should be. And now I'm going to pull a little bit more snug on my thread. And now those are locked in place. I'll then come in here and I'll cut them all to roughly the same length without cutting any of the marabou. You don't really want to cut any type of feather. You want to have that natural wispiness to it. The next material we're going to tie in is going to be the hackle. So you have some black Metz hackle that you got in your kit, and you have a lot of strands in here, so you kind of want to just pick and choose the right size. And the way I measure the size is I'll grab one strand from the bunch and I'll just kind of measure it up and kind of pull it up to see. You can see it's roughly the same size as the hook gap from here to here. That, I like them a bit longer. I mean, at this point, it really comes down to preference. What do you want it to look like? So I picked another one here, a little bit longer, that I like. So I'm gonna take out that strand from the bunch. And now I like to have a lot of profile on all my flies, but a lot on the buggers as well. Is we're gonna have the hackle be thicker up here and then kind of come down to a point by the tail. So when that's swimming through the water, it's pushing a lot of water at the front and it's kind of tapering down. So when you look at your fiber, you'll notice the smaller ones are near the tip of the strand, and then the longer fibers are near the back of the strand. So I want to tie this in tip first so that my smaller fibers are at the back. So what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of grabbing the tip, and all the other fibers I'm splaying back, like I'm opening them up. And then I'm left with this. So that is what I'm going to tie in here. So 1, 2. Now you can work your way to the front and clean everything up, nip off the tag end. But I'm going to tie in the body now, which is going to be that chenille, because then I'm going to wrap up and then I'll do one sort of final cleanup. So our hackle's secured in, it's tied in, it's sitting off to the side. And now you're going to grab your chenille from the kit, and I'm just going to open this up together. So you can tell I really am trying to take the approach of you just got your kit and excited to try to tie a fly. So I'm sort of following along here. And I've opened up the chenille, and you'll notice that it was in this little slit like this. So I just typically take it out, and I'll do one unravel and then put it back in the slit. So I'm left with about that much. That's probably more than enough than what you'll need, and it'll help you save on some material. Now, to tie this in like this, you're gonna get a big butt section. We don't want that. So we're gonna strip off with your nails the black fibers, and that's gonna expose the internal thread inside. That is what we're gonna tie in. So I just wet that with my mouth to keep it nice and tidy. And right on top of the hook shank, get some of these fibers out of the way first. I'm gonna do 1, 2. That looks okay there. And again, you can see I just did a spot check. I just want to make sure that I'm not, butchering the fly in the sense of trapping extra fibers, making sure things look proportioned. And now you can see I'm going to work my way back to the bead. Now this little tag end, they're known to cause problems and always stick out. So this is where, I'm halfway up the shank now. So that, everything that I tied in now is fully secure. And now I can come in and nip off this end and any other stray fibers. Spin your thread counterclockwise, open up that thread, and you can really come in here and clean things up. Now at this point, what I'm really looking for is just an even body. So I'm just gonna adjust my hook here for a second. So I'm going to go through again with my thread, work my way back. Checking the underside, making sure things look pretty consistent there as well. Okay, so there we got a pretty consistent body, very pretty even. To help with durability, you can add some super glue on it before. I don't. Again, I want to keep this very basic rendition of the pattern. And from here, I'm going to grab my chenille. I'm going to start wrapping. First wrap is always the most important. So I'll always come in here and triple check that they all look good first. And then you just want to do touching wraps, working your way to the front of the bead. Front of the fly, I should say. You always want to be mindful of how much space. This is cutting a little bit too close for my liking, but I'll see if we can make that work. And again, I just did, keeping the tension on your right hand, I just secured it with 2 wraps, and then I can hold it and really crank down on it a bit, give it one more securing wrap, and then come in here and cut off your tag end. And now we're going to be ready to wrap the hackle. So the hackle you had tied in before, you're just going to kind of free it out, get all that marabou out of the way if it's being difficult. And same thing, we want to wrap. So I'm going to wrap forward. I'm going to do a full wrap at the tail. And then I'm going to do some evenly spaced spiral wraps, working my way to the front of the fly. And then when I get to the collar, I'm going to do about 2, maybe 3 wraps. And again, to really help push that water. So keeping tension on the hackle, grab your thread and wiggle your way through. Try not to trap any fibers. It's going to happen, so don't worry about it. We got a little fix for that after. So I did 1, and I'm continuing to wiggle my thread through the hackle, trying not to trap any. So I've done 2 wraps, keeping tension. Again, keeping the tension, whether it's on the material or your bobbin, is probably the best tip I can ever give you. That'll make sure things don't become unraveled, they get all loose, you gotta start all over, butchers the fly, etc. So always keep tension. That's an important note. So I've done 3 securing wraps, and now I can kind of let go, and you can see it's not going to go anywhere. So now I'm going to come in here and very, very carefully nip off the tag end. Now you can see I actually have a lot of fibers sticking out the wrong way, the way I don't want them to. I want them to be more back. So with your left hand, you can simply grab as many as you can, stroke them back, and then start to wrap. So I did one wrap, I got a few more smaller ones in there. I'm going to preen them back again and do some more wraps. Still got a few, but we're going to nip those off and no one's going to be able to tell. Now, before you get carried away with thread wraps, that is a very common mistake that I still do. I'm not even gonna lie, that I still do it. I'm what you call a thread whore. I put so many thread wraps, and then I always gotta remind myself to take a few back, because the more thread wraps, the more bulk. So just be careful on your thread wraps. So now grab your whip finish tool. If you don't know how to use your whip finish tool, wrong one. This is the one you're going to be getting in your kit. If you don't know how to use whip finish tool, I do have a video on that specifically. I'll put a link on the card there. I think it's going to be in the top right corner of the video. So grab your whip finish tool. I'll do it quickly here. I'm just going to pull out a few inches of thread. I'm going to stab it with the hook first, loop around the butt end, and then bring my thread back to make that sideways number 4. And then this is where things could get tricky. I like to sweep everything back one more time. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And now with your right hand, go towards the bead, unloop it from the butt end of your whip finisher so it comes out. And now, again, keeping that tension, I'm going to pull with my left hand the bobbin backwards and let the whip finish part slide towards the bead. Okay, so one more time, we're going to stab it with the hook, loop around the butt end, make that sideways number 4. And that's why your whip finisher rotates. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Go towards the bead, unhook it from the butt end, pull with your left, and slide your whip finisher back to the bead, and then unhook it. Now always seat your knot, so you want to just give it another couple, 1 or 2 extra little pulls. That's going to seat the knot that you just put in place. Now you can come in here with your scissors and now cut off your thread. Now if you have a brush, I typically always come in here and I'll just give it a quick little brush, just in case I have any fibers that were trapped as I was wrapping the hackle. Just give it that really buggy look. There you have it. You have one finished woolly bugger. Come in here and drop, a dab of head cement or glue. Try not to get it on the hackle, but you just want to drop it right in there, maybe some underneath. That's just going to help keep it strong and durable. But hopefully, maybe this was your first woolly bugger, and hopefully it was a success. If it wasn't, don't get intimidated. Keep trying. It's just one of those. It's like riding a bike. The more you try, the better you're going to get at it. Again, this was a very basic rendition. I have other videos. There's also 100 others out there on YouTube that you can really, really spice it up. You could really make this fancy, more durable, lots of pattern. But again, this is a basic rendition just to get you started. So give it a shot. Hope you enjoyed it. And tune into the next episode where I believe we're going to be tying the Copper John nymph. So that's a John Bar signature pattern. Crazy effective fly. So Don't forget to tune into that next video, and if you haven't already, subscribe, click that bell thing so that you get notified when I do upload the videos, and hope to see you on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.